Well, I was greeted by a herd of cows that drove into the trailhead today. They've been mooing at me as I get my pack and stuff together. I'm starting out at Upper Grants Ranch Trailhead, heading out to Rencher Peak, which does not have a trail to the top. I'll be leaving the trail to go up there. It says I'm supposed to go by Gordon Springs in half a mile, and then I'm going to turn off when I get to Summit Trail, so I'm not going to make it out to Big Water. But I suspect there is not actually big water anywhere around here this time of year. It's possible the springs will at least have some water since it's not fed by snow melt, because that is all done around here. What is this? How would this even have gotten out here? I don't think this is a building, just some kind of fence out here. But this must have been a much more substantial path at some point to get a cart like that out here, I feel like. Guessing this area must be Gordon Spring. Seems a little greener than everywhere else. Looks like we got an old trough over here with water in it. It is a real spring. And apparently the bees really like it. Okay, so they're piping up the spring water here. I'm guessing the spring is down there in the green area. Huh. This must be fed year-round then if it's still got water now. I can't imagine it gets dry later. The water's not too bad for one of these troughs. It is not just solid green. This trail goes through soft dirt, and I think it has been here for a long time. In a lot of places it has worn this huge rut. It's just getting deeper and deeper as the trail gets used, I think. It's just walking through dust. Like, I don't know what they need to do for this trail, but I think this rut is just gonna keep going down lower and lower and lower. This trail just keeps getting deeper and deeper in the ground. It's been over a week since I was hiking in the Pine Mountains last when I did Signal and Burger Peak, and it has gotten much hotter. I think last night it didn't get below 65 as a low, even up here, and it's going to be about the same today. This trail is much more tiring than it should be. I've come up a little ways already, but because it's in this ditch, there is a thick layer everywhere, several inches deep, of loose dirt and rock that you sink into. And it makes it much more exhausting to hike uphill than if it was just normal ground or rock. Well, look at this little guy. curled up sleeping in the shade on this rock. It's just a little one. It's got a nice diamond-shaped head, though. I don't think his rattle's grown in yet. That is very cool. I will still give him a moderately wide berth. Much rather run into a baby one on the side of the trail than step on one in the trail, though. That is very neat. Well, this summit trail on this side is a nice wide 2-track road that is much easier to walk on than the ditch of dust that was the trail the whole way up to this point. Just came around the corner and got my first view of Rencher Peak. I'm going to take a trail that goes off to the right and passes in front of it and loops around behind and goes up the back, because there's a less tree-y path on the other side that's just grass you can walk up. Since the entire path has been dust the entire way, I've been able to see all of the tracks in the dirt everywhere. And I don't think I've seen a single footprint the entire time still. Plenty of horse tracks, some cow prints, and some deer prints, but no footprints whatsoever. So I do not think anyone has hiked up here since the last time it rained, which I think has been a while. Well, I think this was supposed to be a reservoir. It does not currently look to be overflowing. It is at least a little muddy down there. That's actually more than I expected. And this might be where my trail turns off up there. Oh, there's a sign over here. Oh, Big Water Reservoir. Is it saying this is Big Water Reservoir? Or is it saying Big Water Reservoir in 2 miles? I'm going to take a closer look. I thought Big Water was down further, and I wasn't going to go there. Okay, yes, this is a long, flat reservoir. Big Water's in 2 miles, and White Rock is in 3 miles. Well, I didn't actually see the trail I was wanting to turn off on. And these signs don't say anything useful. So I'm just going to head off this way. I know my trail's supposed to go through over here. I will hope it will appear at some point. Although it's a little concerning, I don't see it turning off from the main trail anyway. Found the trail. It reappears over here. It looks very faint though. I expect this trail to go in and out. This is the long, flat trail. And it might have vanished again already. But it just goes this way through the rocks. I found this nice big rock in the shade back here to have a drink and a snack on. This trail is somewhat difficult to follow. It goes in and out. There are no tracks on it at all in the dirt, other than occasional deer prints. I haven't even seen any horse prints out this way. So apparently the ranchers don't come over here. I do not think this trail gets used very often. I'm somewhat skeptical that it's going to be followable all the way around, but we'll see. It connects supposedly into another trail back behind Rencher Mountain, but that trail I think is even less likely to actually exist. Oh, was I not on the trail. That looks trail-like, but this also looks trail-like. There's just deer prints on this one too. No idea. There's just winding cow trails all over through here as well. They make it very difficult to try to follow this already almost non-existent trail. What an odd trail back here. This is such a weird trail. I wonder when the last time this trail was maintained was. Well, it still exists for now, but I am not sure that it gets used by anything other than deer. There haven't even been any signs of cows out here. Oh, there are endless twisting cow trails out here. I was following what I thought was the trail, but it turns out it was a random cow trail that looks identical to the real trail. So now I'm backtracking a little bit, try to figure out where I should have turned off. This all looks very trail-like, but there's no trail on the map here. It's very difficult to follow when the trail is so indistinct that it is indistinguishable from game trails. But at some point back here, I was supposed to turn off and go cut through this valley over here. This, again, isn't a trail on the map, but it's going kind of the way I want to go. And there's another one going that way. Definitely need a GPS track for this hike. I'm glad I stopped to look at mine to see how far it was going to be to the turnoff. Okay, the trail turned here, and it very much looked like it kept going straight, because I think that trail is bigger than the real trail. Well, I must be on the right track now. I don't see a trail, but there's a couple cairns. This is Rencher Peak up on the left, and the trail, or remains of it, goes off to the right over here and starts to get further away from the peak. So I'm going to start cutting across over this way. From what I have read, once I go a little further around the side, these trees will thin out and it'll be a grassy slope going up. So I'm hoping that is the case, because from this point of view, it looks like there's going to be quite a bit of bushwhacking. Well, once I got through that band of trees and wrapped around the backside a little bit, it did clear up nicely. There are still trees, but there's plenty of room to maneuver around. And the shrubs to bushwhack through are nice and low and pretty easy to get through. So I don't think this will be too bad up to the top. And out to the west and northwest, there are excellent views out across the mountains. Don't know if there'll be many views up at the top because I think it's going to be wooded. But at the very least, I'll have these views on the way back down. Well, I think this is the highest point of Rencher Peak. Oh, look, I wasn't expecting that. It even has a benchmark. I can get untangled from this tree. Huh. Did not know that was going to be up here. 1938. It's encased in a little bit of concrete or something. Okay, excellent. I was a little concerned I wouldn't be able to tell what was the high point. That settles it. That other spot I was on was that rock over there. It definitely is a little lower. And this one does have a nice view, have a slightly different angle. Very cool. Does it list the elevation on this thing? Rencher, 1938. No, does not tell the elevation. The elevations have been wrong on my maps for several of these, so I wanted to see if there was a official elevation. The one I have lists 8,783, but it also shows it being about 100 feet out past that tree in the middle of the air somewhere out there. So whoever did all of the surveying in this area had some problems. There have been a bunch of places out here where the summits are in the wrong place and have the wrong heights listed. And down, you can see all the way into the valley, and you can see the Kolob Cliffs over in the distance, part of Zion National Park. Well, I've had a very nice rest up here on this rock. I almost didn't do this hike. There are, I think, 3 trip reports for this hike over the last like 10 years or something like that. And 2 of them say there's pretty much no view at the top because it's all forested. One of them, I think Stav, said there were some views because there were rocks to stand on. So I decided to go for it because it sounded like an interesting hike even if you couldn't see anything at the top. But I would consider this an excellent view. You can't see all the way around because there's some trees, so it's not like 360 views. But there is a very good view to the south and a pretty good view over to the east, where you can see all the way across the valley over to the Kolob Canyons over in Zion National Park, with the town of Canaraville on the far side of the valley. And on the near side, which you can't see very well over the curve of the mountain, is New Harmony, which is where my hike tomorrow up Mountain Baldy will start. But this view over to the south is spectacular, with Pine Valley across the way over there you can see on the side of the mountain. And then the 2 big points up there are Berger and Signal Peak that I was on last week. And then beyond those mountains are St. George down in the valley on the other side. The views off into Nevada to the west get a little hazy, but you can see pretty well. I had considered descending down the east side of Rencher Peak instead of the west side where I came up, but that side looked like a horrific bushwhack compared to this side. And the view out to the east over towards Kolob Canyons, I think I'll get a better view of that when I do Mount Baldy tomorrow anyway. And I knew there was a really good view over to the west on the way back down. I just get the whole time going this way. So I'm descending back down the west side again, and it's a fairly easy descent. I have finished descending Rencher Peak, made it back down to what maybe is the Long Flat Trail. It's in this vicinity somewhere. But instead of going back the way I need to, I'm going to continue a little bit further down Long Flat Trail, because in about a quarter mile it's supposed to dead end into Rock Springs Trail. And I was unable to find any record of anyone hiking any section of Rock Springs Trail. And I looked at the satellite images for the area and I couldn't see the trail anywhere over there. So I wanted to investigate, while I'm right next to it, whether this trail actually exists anymore or not. It still shows up on the map. And I want to know, when the next time I come out here and start planning some hikes in the area, whether I can count on that trail being there or not. So I'm just going to walk down about a quarter mile to where this trail theoretically dead ends into it and see if there's actually something there. So I know. Well, here's the intersection with Rock Springs Trail. There is something resembling a trail here. Looks like it's going to be very faint, just like the one I was on there. And there are no tracks in it other than deer prints. So I expect it's probably going to be about the same quality as the Long Flat Trail, where it goes in and out, but it does theoretically exist. There is something here. And I imagine at one time this was a signpost. And this is where I leave the summit trail and head off on the Grant Ranch Trail back to where I parked, and go back to hiking in this divot of dirt. Made it back to the car. This hike ended up being a little over 9.5 miles with 2,200 feet of elevation gain and a little over 5.5 hours. It was a surprisingly nice hike for the descriptions I had read online. It was wooded at the top when you got up there, but there was a very pleasant hike on the way out there, even if the trail vanished a lot of the time. And there were some nice views at the top. Well, I did some digging to see if I could figure out where the name Rencher Peak came from, because I always like to know where the names of the mountains I'm climbing came from. I originally thought it must just be a corruption of rancher into Rencher, but it turns out it's the name of a ranching family up in this area that's been here since the 1800s, the Rencher family. There's a road over on the middle and western side of the Pine Valley Mountains called the Rencher Ranch Road. So maybe their name is a corruption of Rencher, but the mountain at least is named for the Rencher family.